Hello everybody, this is Gareth Goon Speaks back here with another video. I'd like you to hit the subscribe bar or give me a thumbs up if you like the content, or hit the notification bell to be notified when I post my next post. Or if you'd like to look up my website, you can do so at www.garethcahoon.co.uk. Or if you'd like to support the ministry, you can do so through garethcahoon3@gmail.com on PayPal. Former Oxfam head alleges toxic anti-Semitic culture within the charity, claims anti-Israel bias and pressure to use genocidal label. NGO monitor confirms problem is widespread. The former CEO of Oxfam, an international confederation of charitable organisations focused on fighting poverty, equality and injustice around the world, has described her former workplace as having a toxic and anti-Semitic culture. Dr. Halma Begum has said that they leapt to accusations of genocide against Israel before the facts have been properly established. A similar anti-Israel slant has become increasingly apparent among other NGOs, according to the Jerusalem Post, as NGO Monitor reveals discussions within charitable organisations have continued for 20 years, eager to apply the label genocide to Israel. It always felt as though we were disproportionately working around the crisis in Gaza, Begum said in an interview with British broadcaster Channel 4 on Saturday. She described quite strong pushbacks over any hesitancy to use the word genocide. To use the word genocide, it has to be something that we arrive at with consultation and evidence and good legal advice, she stated. To try and use that term before we were ready as an organisation feels quite risky to me. It was very hard to hold on to neutrality and impartiality, she admitted, and said there was a minority of staff who had a very toxic culture in the way they operated, which they affected the whole organisation. Dr. Gerald Steinberg, founder and president of NGO Monitor, which has been tracking over 300 organisations, corroborated Begum's claims. We saw that with the coordinated genocide campaign launched about a year after October 7th, discussions about using such terminology had circulated in NGO frameworks for over 20 years. He told the Jerusalem Post on Sunday they were prepared to use it as soon as they believed the opportunity arose. It is important to understand that there are hundreds of NGOs registered within the United Nations that claim to promote human rights or humanitarian aid while also maintaining active political advocacy roles. Steinberg said, accusing them of political demonization of Israel, obsessed with Israel and reinforcement of each other's messaging. Oxfam, for example, has an annual budget of about 1.3 billion. That's enormous. It's a powerful organisation with a large public relations operation that significantly influences public and political opinion, including at the United Nations, he warned. Israel has recently brought in new rules for NGOs requiring aid organisations to register the names and identify numbers of their Palestinian and foreign aid workers, as well as provide funding and operational details in order to continue working in the Palestinian territories. The requirement was added after the Israeli government exposed the identities of several international workers as also being members of terror groups. As an example of this is Fad Ali Waia, a doctor working with Doctors Without Borders (MSF), who was revealed to have been the head of a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket program. After failing to meet the requirements, 37 such NGOs lost their licenses to operate on January 1st, 2026, including MSF, Oxfam and the Danish and Norwegian Refugee Councils and Caritas Internationalis, an umbrella of several Catholic charities. Steinberg said some NGOs have been profoundly influenced by activists with a goal of delegitimizing Israel, describing some of the volunteers as virulent propagandists. He told the Post that while the growth in anti-Israel bias has been gradual, he believes that the new requirements are having some effect. MSF recently announced their decision to halt non-critical medical activities at Nasser Hospital in Gaza, following reports of armed men, some masked, inside the facility, and concerns over the movement of weapons within it. There was known journalists and the IDF documented hospital used by Hamas years ago. It's implausible that these NGOs were unaware, Steinberg said. The question is why they're acknowledging it now. I believe it's related to Israel requirements that NGOs submit staff names for vetting. He said Israel is demanding cooperation with security frameworks and screening personnel to prevent terror infiltration. This pressure appears to be having some effect. If they knew hospitals were being used by Hamas and that aid was diverted to the building through hundreds of kilometres of tunnels and remained silent, that makes them complicit. The Red Cross has also frequently been accused of partiality during the conflict, having failed to visit the hostages even once during their time in captivity and taken part in the Hamas release ceremonies. Similarly, Amnesty International has become increasingly open about their anti-Israel position, despite claims of neutrality, even posting in support of UN Special Rapporteur Vanessa Albanese, who refers to Hamas terrorists as resistance fighters. The entire industry requires careful, independent investigation. The lack of oversight has allowed a political agenda to override humanitarian claims, Steinberg told the Post. Dr. Begum also is taking legal action against her former employers for anti-Semitism, racism and sexism, but Oxfam issued a statement insisting that they remain neutral, saying, "We have a zero tolerance approach to discrimination, harassment and abuse of power in all areas of our work, including racism and anti-Semitism and sexism. It would be inaccurate and misleading to characterise Oxfam as a racist organisation. We abhor anti-Semitism. We unequivocally and categorically reject any allegation of the anti-Semitism which runs counter to Oxfam's core humanitarian principles of impartiality and humanity." Well, they can say what they like, but when the UNRWA has actual Gazan terrorists working for them, and these other ones like Oxfam and other NGOs which are meant to go in and help actually breed hostility between Israel and the Palestinians, and that's exactly what Israel doesn't need. I think it is about time that these organisations either leave Israel or get their act together and work like the institutions they're supposed to be, charitable institutions. They should leave all politics at the door, because suffering people are suffering people no matter who they are, where they're from, or what their religion is. Shalom, Maranatha, and Hallelujah.